Thanks very much, Detlev, and thanks to for your kind introduction, and thanks very much to President Watanabe for his very gracious but also very informative welcoming of our community here for the third time. I would say it is impossible to underemphasize, as Detlev and President did, the role of NICE and the AIM team in particular in the evolution of the integrated assessment community and the world at large, as he artfully reported. I actually was going to talk about the history of the IAMC and the three founders, the Nakashenovich, Kainuma, and that crazy guy from the US, but since the Detlev let the cat out of the bag, I can't do that. I would like to thank a few people right at the beginning, because many of these people, for putting together this meeting, because many of these people get busy at the end and we don't get to actually thank them. So I'd like to thank the now up and running, as I'll describe, Secretariat led by Monica Eberly from IMC, along with Sylvia Rulin. On the one hand, the program committee headed by our own Detlev Van Vuren, and last but not least, the local arrangements organizing committee under President Watanabe, led by Toshi Masui and Shinichiro Fujimori, two very active members of our little steering committee, which I'll describe in a second. And last but not least, then, I'd like to welcome all of you who are here. It really is you who are the body of the organization and the reason we do what we do to try to organize things and help you become more successful over time. So that's kind of the overarching goal. So we have three basic functions since the beginning. We've more or less done these. This is kind of building a scientific community and providing opportunities for cross-fertilizing research and diagnostics and assessment, and a pathway for younger researchers and more diversity to pervade our profession. We also try to interface between our community and other communities, which started with the climate modeling community and the impacts adaptation and vulnerability community, which was long ago called that, and then a few other names, and now I think we're back to IV, but I'm not really sure. And more recently, other communities, as we'll discuss many times in these 3 days, including the financial community, which has gotten more, understandably, more and more interested in climate change as an issue and the work we do and how it might relate to the work that they do. And finally, we have provided, I think, pretty well a point of contact with other bodies out there, in particular the IPCC. So we, for most of the activities of the IPCC, we have kind of cooperative agreements that we've signed, usually between the IMC, and I get to sign on behalf of the steering committee, and then usually it's Kewan's and his group at IASA who are the keepers of most of the data that we produce, as you know, and the IPCC chairs. So I'm thankful that the IPCC has placed their trust in us, and we've been able to deliver some useful things. In terms of progress, I'm going to kind of slide through these slides and try to emphasize new things. I would say to recognize once again the extraordinary work that Monica Eberly and the group at the IMC, along with Sylvia Bertolin, I think, let's see, Monica, but she's back there, and Sylvia's in the, I'll come back to some specific things they're doing, but they're now responsible for organization and so on. And as you'll see at the end, we had 12 years ago a mandate to establish a secretariat, but it wasn't until about 2 years ago that we actually did. And Monica was fairly new on the job at the meeting in Sevilla last year, and now has actually been very skillful. And as I opined at the steering committee meeting last night, she is so efficient that she's made, despite our lack of expertise in organizing things, she's made us a lot more efficient by being so efficient herself. So thank you, Monica. So this is actually the 12th annual meeting, typo, and I think we had around 180 abstracts have been. It's a little bit hard to count because they come in early, late. Sometimes people apply and withdraw and so on. And we have about 200, maybe a little bit over, registered participants for this meeting. This meeting has the usual 2 half-day plenaries, one this morning and one on Wednesday morning. You can read the agenda about that, and I think a record high detlef of 22 parallel sessions. I think that's probably almost double what we had last year, which was then a record, more or less. We do have a website. We'll talk about plans for improving the website in a second. I will. We have the cooperative agreements, scenario data warehouse at IASA for the AR5, SR 1.5, the special report on land and beyond. And we have, at present, 4 scientific working groups authorized. So the governance of the IAMC recognizes that a lot of the work will go on through members individually and the so-called scientific working groups, which are focused on themes that are viewed as collectively important to the community. We do have a scientific steering committee which oversees the process and kind of is an outward-facing presence for the community at large. We do have slowly assembled an advisory council. We have a few people here. Alan Fawcett from US EPA, and then Seth is here from Climate Works representing Sarabi Menon. We will try next year to be a little bit more specific about what we would like, with your help, what we would like the advisory council members to do, but we're very happy that some of you will be here, and we hope to have more of the group here next year, and we will organize that through a conference call between the steering committee and the advisory council members during the first quarter of this year. We also, on the steering committee side, interface with these outside bodies, which could either be research area groups like climate modelers, which the interaction with the climate modeling community was what led to the SSPs, with the IV community is what led to the RCPs. What led to the SSPs was a collaboration with the impacts, adaptation, and vulnerability community, or whatever they want to call themselves, which changes. I think we have Brian O'Neill here. I think I saw him walk in, who's been a key person on that in that regard, and was as foreseen about 10 years ago, but fortunately that's all worked out. Well, the current scientific working groups, and you will hear overviews of what they are doing. Some of you are involved in their work. Membership in them and their activities are open to all members. There will be on Wednesday afternoon kind of separate breakouts run by the leaders of the 4 current scientific working groups. And those include data protocols and management, scenarios, evaluation and diagnostics, and the newest of the 4 on scenarios for climate-related financial analysis that some of you know about, and if you don't, you'll hear an overview. We did have a pretty good set of people from the finance business here at last year's annual meeting, and we also have a group of such people here this time. Now, the rules for how to start a scientific working group have now been codified and are on the IAMC website. So if any of you have an idea for one or want to suggest that somebody else in the community organize another group, we are definitely interested in hearing about that and open to any and all proposals. We're trying not to overload us and the community with too many of those. So oftentimes it'll take, like the finance group, I don't know, Elmar or Jay or somebody can remind me. I think we've been discussing this for about 2 years, but now we actually have a hard and fast statement of what the group is and what its objectives are. The steering committee is kind of built around the sustaining members, which used to be 6. We now have 7. They're listed there. We have a very formal process now. It used to be somewhat informal, where we have an election amongst all the members to nominate people not on the sustaining group that they think would be good to include in the steering committee. So we usually have 3 or 4 of those, and then after those are recruited, the group of the appointed members, the elected members, and the sustaining members get together and decide to appoint additional members, usually for either geographical or disciplinary diversity purposes. So that's the group now. I'd like to welcome MIT. Sergei Polsev is here from there. CIRED, Miriam is there from CIRID. I think they're the new ones. We did appoint the CMCC in Italy to a appointed slot in view of the fact that the Secretariat is now there in the Venice chapter of the or site of the CMCC. I won't go through this detailed list of all the things we do. We're great. We alone can ensure success. Just kidding. But I will highlight a few things. We had our annual face-to-face steering committee meeting last night at a delightful Japanese restaurant picked out by Toshi. And I think it was a pretty productive meeting. So a few new things that we are trying to do. I'll just mention 2 or 3 of them. One is we would like to significantly enhance the website and tie it into various kinds of social media. So we're anxious to get any advice from and participation for the members at large. So we actually have some budget, and we're going to assign that a high priority. And Sylvia, actually, who's here in the back, is going to be the technical lead on that. But we're trying to get information about what would be useful from the point of view of the membership, both in terms of functionalities and in terms of substance. Things you would like to see us do. This could range from job postings, which I think are already done relatively well, to announcing new activities, to highlighting the work of the community. We do have an ongoing debate, which we won't try to drag you into, about responding to various either critiques of the work of the community, sometimes informed, sometimes not so well informed, and also what I would call slights, where people say what we ought to be doing in integrated assessment is things we've already been doing the last 10 years. And I think the steering committee debates on this have always ended with the same thing, rather than negative feedback to these groups, to take the high road, I would call it, and actually do a better job of communicating what it is we think we do that's worth communicating to the rest of the world. So I think this will be a fairly major project the next couple of years, is to get down everything from tutorials about what we do and how the models work and how they might be useful, to just clarifying that there are more, with all due respect to our Nobel Prize winning colleague Bill Nordhaus, that there are more there's more to integrated assessment, as he would openly acknowledge, by the way, than just the aggregate cost-benefit models that tend to get a lot of the attention out there. So that's one big thing. The other thing that rose kind of from the bottom up this year was Sylvia had put together a map with all the 51 institutions that are formal members now, and put out little markers on each one of them. And we realized, kind of surprisingly, that there are certain rural regions where we had no members. A couple of us in the US noticed there were no members in Canada. We now have one, only one. There we had none in Africa, we had none in the Middle East, and only our Brazilian friends from COPE in Rio in the Latin America side. So we are undergoing a push for some of us. It's kind of a find a friend, find a sister or brother institution. So if any of you have, we already in the discussions yesterday met with people and got some good preliminary things. So I think it's better for the institution to have global coverage. I would say the other thing we are working on to close here is the idea of getting more gender balance. I think we have good and growingly good, better gender balance, but we need to continually work on that. And the other side of this, diversity, is to get more young people. I think some of the centers through some of the Pan-Euro projects are doing a good job of that, but I think we all should redouble our efforts, because this is the group that's got the most to gain or lose by what we wind up doing on, speaking as a person for the US, I know it's hard to take me seriously on this. They are the people that have the most to gain or lose by adopting good or bad sustainability and or climate policies. So guardedly optimistic we'll be able to help people figure out what to do, because as President Watanabe laid out, the challenges are big and the time is short. So with that, I'll turn it back to Detlev Van Buren, who I think was chairing all the sessions today. He's now at least chairing the next session, which is on Asian climate policy analysis and the role of modeling in that. So thank you very much and welcome again. Detlef.